The woman I raised a child for 12 years told me I was never her father. Not during an argument. Not in a moment of rage. Melissa said it on a Tuesday morning while pouring coffee, her voice flat as pavement. You will never be Hailey's actual father, Aaron, so quit acting like one. Before we go deeper into this mess of lies and double lives, please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and click that hype button to keep these stories coming. I stood there holding my briefcase, lunch packed, keys in hand. The kitchen smelled like vanilla creamer and something rotten I couldn't place. What? She didn't look up. You heard me. Hailey sat at the table, 13 years old, scrolling her phone. She didn't flinch, didn't defend me, didn't even glance my direction. I realized then she'd heard this speech before. Privately. Mother-daughter talks I was never invited to. I set my keys on the counter. That's what you really think? Melissa sipped her coffee. It's what I know. 12 years. Diapers and tantrums and first days of school. Holding Hailey's hand through emergency room visits when she had pneumonia at age 4. Teaching her to ride a bike. Signing permission slips. Every parent-teacher conference. Every birthday cake. Every tear I wiped away while Melissa worked late or traveled for conferences or disappeared into her phone. 12 years, and I was nothing. I looked at Hailey. She met my eyes for half a second, then looked away. Not guilty, not sad, just done. Okay, I said. That evening I called a realtor, listed the house before Melissa came home from her branding director job at some fitness franchise she never shut up about. The listing went live Thursday morning. I packed 3 suitcases and put them in my truck. Friday afternoon, I stood in the driveway while Melissa screamed from the porch. You can't just sell the house? Already did. Joint ownership means I don't need permission. This is insane. Where are we supposed to go? I opened the truck door. You'll figure it out. You're good at making plans without me. Aaron! Her voice cracked. Real panic now. We can talk about this. I climbed into the driver's seat, looked at her one last time through the windshield. 12 years of my life standing on that porch, her face twisted in something that almost resembled fear, but wasn't quite guilt. I drove away. The apartment I rented month to month sat 3 miles from the port where I worked as a logistics coordinator. Small. Quiet. No memories attached. I unpacked my clothes, made the bed, microwaved dinner, and sat in the dark. Not broken, not crying, not destroyed. Done. The first week in that apartment felt like living underwater. Everything muted. Distant. I went to work, coordinated shipping schedules, came home, ate frozen meals, and stared at walls that didn't hold any photographs. My coworkers noticed. Jim from Container Operations asked if I was feeling okay. Said I looked tired. I told him I was fine. He didn't push. The port stretched along the waterfront like a small city. Cranes and containers and ships from every corner of the world. I'd worked there 15 years, knew every dock, every warehouse, every supervisor and crew chief and safety inspector. People trusted me, gave me access to systems and schedules without question. I was Aaron Blake. Reliable, quiet, the guy who kept things running smooth. That access would matter soon. I just didn't know it yet. I spent evenings replaying moments from the marriage, looking for clues I'd missed. They were everywhere. The time Melissa corrected Hailey when the girl called me Dad at a restaurant. He's Aaron, honey. Remember? The way she'd schedule activities without telling me, then act surprised when I showed up. How she'd tell Hailey stories about your real father, who was out working hard to make the world better, while I sat right there in the living room. Little cuts, small enough to ignore individually. Together, they formed a pattern. She'd been erasing me for years. I went through old photos on my phone, hundreds of pictures of Hailey, birthday parties, school events, vacations. In almost every photo where Melissa and I appeared together, She was turned slightly away from me, body language I'd never noticed before. Even in our wedding photos, her smile looked tight, performative. Had she ever loved me? Or was I always just the stable option, the guy with a steady job and no drama who'd raise another man's kid without asking questions? I deleted the photos, all of them. If I wasn't her father and never had been, then I didn't need the evidence of my delusion. The phone felt lighter after. So did I. The port job gave me access to schedules nobody thought twice about. Cargo manifests, crew rosters, vessel arrivals and departures. Part of my job involved coordinating dock space, so I checked these documents 40 times a day. Monday morning, I started noticing patterns in our cloud storage. Melissa never deleted anything. She just assumed I never looked. I was right. Buried in a folder labeled Work Trips 2019-2024 were message screenshots. Not many, just enough. Can't wait to see you when we dock next month. Holloway keeps asking about you. Reed says the ship gets into port on the 15th. Reed Holloway. The name pulled up a memory I'd shoved down years ago. Melissa mentioned him once when we first got together. An old fling, a guy who worked on ships. She'd laughed it off. That was forever ago, Aaron. He's probably still sailing around the Pacific like some kind of pirate. I pulled up the port database, searched crew rosters for vessels with regular West Coast routes, found him in under 10 minutes. Reed Holloway, age 41, chief marine engineer on the vessel Pacific Horizon, commercial cargo ship, chartered route Los Angeles to Shanghai, round trip every 6 weeks. I checked the docking schedule. Pacific Horizon had docked in our port 17 times in the past 3 years, every time Melissa had a conference or brand retreat lined up within 48 hours. I sat back in my chair, stared at the screen, not angry, not surprised, just calculating. The apartment walls felt thin that night. I could hear neighbors arguing through the ceiling, somebody's dog barking 2 units down. I made a list on paper because I didn't trust anything digital. What I knew, Melissa reconnected with Reed Holloway. She used company trips as cover. She spent 12 years making me feel small while planning her exit. She poisoned Hailey against me so there'd be no custody fight. What I could prove? Nothing yet. But I worked in logistics. I understood timelines. I knew how to connect dots others ignored. What I needed? Patience, precision. One mistake from her, just one, and I'd have everything. I folded the paper and slid it into my wallet. Sleep didn't come easy that week. I kept thinking about Reed Holloway. What kind of man was he? What did Melissa see in him that she didn't see in me? Then I realized it didn't matter. This wasn't about him. It was about her. About 12 years of manipulation and gaslighting and slow erasure. Reed was just a symptom. Melissa was the disease. I spent the weekend researching property law, joint ownership, separation procedures. What rights did I have? What could I do legally that would hurt her most? Turned out, quite a bit. The house was jointly owned. She couldn't stop me from selling. The financial separation form she'd filed actually strengthened my position because it proved she wanted to divide assets. I could withdraw my half of savings immediately, cancel shared accounts, remove my income from her calculations. Everything she'd built her life around, I could pull out from under her in a matter of days. But I wanted more than financial damage. I wanted her reputation shredded, her perfect image destroyed, her carefully constructed world reduced to rubble. For 12 years, she'd made me feel small, worthless, a placeholder for the real thing. Time to show her what real worthlessness felt like. Monday morning, I opened a separate bank account, transferred my half of our joint savings, $15,000. Not enough to hurt her permanently, but enough to trigger immediate panic. Then I called the mortgage company, informed them I was removing myself from autopay. They'd need to contact the co-owner for future payments. Same with utilities, insurance, streaming services, phone plan. Everything that had my name attached, I severed. By noon, Melissa's financial life was collapsing and she didn't even know it yet. I felt nothing. No guilt, no hesitation, just the cold satisfaction of watching dominoes fall. That afternoon I walked through the port checking container positions. The work calmed me. Simple, logical. Everything in its place or not. No gray area, no emotional manipulation. I wished my marriage had been that simple. Jim found me near Dock 7. "Hey, Blake, you got a minute?" "Sure. You seem different lately. Everything okay?" "Fine." "You sure? Because if you need time off..." "I don't need time off, I need to work." He nodded slowly. "All right, just checking." After he left, I stood watching a cargo ship unload. Massive containers swinging through the air on crane cables. Everything choreographed, planned, executed. That's what I needed to be. Choreographed, planned, executed. No emotion, just strategy. Pacific Horizon docked Thursday afternoon. I watched from the logistics office window as crew members filed down the gangway. Reed Holloway stepped off wearing a navy jacket, talking into his phone, laughing at something. Tall, broad shoulders, the kind of guy who thought his smile unlocked every door. I walked down to the pier, waited near the cargo checkpoint. He saw me before I said anything, stopped walking, ended his call, studied me with the kind of look that said he'd been expecting this moment. "Aaron Blake," he said, not a question. "Reed Holloway." He grinned, actually grinned. Didn't think I'd ever meet the placeholder husband. I didn't move, didn't react, just looked at him the way I'd look at faulty cargo data, something that needed fixing. "Melissa talks about you?" I asked. "She mentions you existed. Past tense mostly." "She mentioned Hailey?" His grin faltered. "Look, man, I'm not here to cause trouble. You already did." He shifted his weight, glanced around like he wanted witnesses. "You got something to say, say it." "Not yet." I walked away, left him standing there, confused, probably thinking he'd won something. He hadn't. That night, I went through every financial document Melissa and I shared. Joint accounts, mortgage, credit cards, bills on autopay. She'd always handled the budget, insisted on it, said I didn't have the patience for numbers. Turned out she'd filed a unilateral financial separation form 3 months ago. Legal document, quiet, designed to protect her assets while slowly untangling mine. She'd been planning this, not weeks, months. I sat at my kitchen table under the buzzing fluorescent light and felt something shift. Not rage, not heartbreak, something colder, more permanent. If she wanted separation, I'd give her separation. The kind she couldn't walk back from. Friday morning, I made copies of everything. Bank statements, credit card bills, the separation form, Melissa's expense reports from work, hotel charges near the port, conference registrations that didn't exist. I organized it all into a folder, labeled it, set it aside. Then I started phase 2. Saturday she called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Aaron, what are you doing? The mortgage payment bounced. The power company sent a shutoff notice. Call me back. This is childish." Childish. 12 years of raising her daughter. Childish. I deleted the voicemail. Sunday I drove to the beach, walked along the shore, watched waves crash against rocks, felt the wind on my face. For the first time in 12 years, I felt like myself. Not a husband, not a father, not a provider, just Aaron. The man I'd been before Melissa convinced me I needed to be someone else. Monday morning, I sent an email to Melissa's company HR department. Not anonymous. My name right there in the signature. Subject, conflict of interest inquiry. Body, short, professional. Attached documentation showing her business trips matched Reed Holloway's docking schedule. Bank records showing charges at hotels near the port. Expense reports claiming fitness conferences that didn't exist. I didn't accuse her of anything, just asked if the company had policies about employee relationships and travel expense accuracy. HR responded within 2 hours. They'd look into it. I leaned back in my chair, watched ships unload cargo through the office window. Reed's vessel was still docked. He'd be here another day, maybe 2. Time to tighten the screws. That afternoon, Melissa called 6 times. I answered on the 7th. "What did you do?" Her voice shook. "Nothing illegal. HR called me in for a meeting. They're asking about my travel expenses, about Reed. Aaron, you're trying to get me fired." I asked a question. That's all. "You're destroying my career. You destroyed my family." Silence on the line. Then her voice dropped, cold and sharp. "You don't get to play victim. You were never Hailey's father. I let you pretend for 12 years because it was easier than dealing with her real dad. That's all you were. A convenience. Then you won't mind the inconvenience of paying your own bills." I hung up, stood in my apartment, felt my heart pounding. Not from fear, from adrenaline. This was war now, and I was going to win. Tuesday morning, the house listings started attracting buyers, showings every other day. Melissa couldn't refuse them. Legally, she had no grounds. Real estate agents walked through with clients while she tried to maintain her perfect image. Her social media posts became frantic. Vague complaints about toxic people and protecting your peace. Her followers ate it up. Poor Melissa. So strong, so brave. I watched from my apartment, emotionless, as her carefully built world started cracking. That evening, Hailey called. First time since I'd left. "Mom's crying all the time," she said. "No greeting, no how are you, just accusation." "That's unfortunate. You're selling the house. Where are we supposed to live?" "That's between you and your mother. You're being cruel. I'm being done." "What does that even mean?" "It means your mother told me I was never your father, so I'm acting accordingly." Silence on the line. I could hear Melissa in the background, asking who Hailey was talking to. "She didn't mean it like that," Hailey said. "Yes, she did, and you agreed with her." I was angry. So was I. Difference is, I spent 12 years earning the right to be angry. You spent 12 years being told I didn't matter. Now you know what that looks like. I hate you. No, you don't. But your mother spent a long time making sure you would. She hung up. I set the phone down, stared at the blank screen, felt that familiar tightness in my chest. The one that used to come when Hailey was little and got hurt and I couldn't fix it. Not anymore. She wasn't mine to fix. Never had been. Wednesday morning, I found Reed on the pier. His expression tightened the moment he saw me. "We need to talk," I said. "I've got nothing to say to you." "That's fine. Just listen. Melissa's company is investigating her travel expenses. They'll find the hotel stays, the fake conferences, you." His posture changed, guarded, defensive. "That's her problem. It's yours too. Your employer has strict conduct rules, civilian relationships that affect operational security, grounds for disciplinary action. You're bluffing. No, I'm warning you. When this comes out, both of you will have a very bad year. You're trying to threaten me? I'm explaining consequences." He stepped closer, voice low. "You're a vindictive little man who can't handle losing." "I didn't lose anything. I'm just done being silent." He didn't answer, just stared, calculating whether I was serious. I was. "Stay away from Melissa," he finally said. "I already am. But you should decide whether she's worth your career." I walked away and heard him curse under his breath. Good. That afternoon, I filed a routine safety report. Unauthorized civilians on vessels during shore leave. A simple alert, nothing fabricated. Port security agreed to random inspections. That night, my apartment felt quiet for the first time in years. No chaos, no tension, just silence and peace. Thursday morning, I arrived early at work. Jim found me in the break room. "You've got intensity lately," he said, "like you're on a mission." Maybe I am. At my desk, I reviewed regulations. Reed's record was spotless, for now. But arrogant men always slip. Melissa would want to see his ship. He'd let her. That mistake would be enough. Later, Melissa called from an unknown number. "What did you say to Reed?" she demanded. Nothing he didn't need to hear. "He's pulling back, says this is too complicated. You're sabotaging my relationship." "Your relationship sabotaged my family," I said. "I'm returning the favor." She panicked, begged, promised anything. "Aaron, please, I'll end things. I'll tell Hailey the truth. Just come home." "I don't have a home. You sold it the day you told me I wasn't Hailey's father." "I didn't mean it." "You meant all of it. You just finally said it out loud." Silence. "You really hate me," she whispered. "No, I just don't care anymore." I hung up, blocked her number. My hands trembled, not from doubt, but from adrenaline. There was no turning back. I was dismantling her life piece by piece, and it felt right. Thursday evening, I went to the gym and pushed my body until my muscles shook. The pain grounded me. It was clean, predictable, unlike the last month. Shower, dinner, silence. I sat at the kitchen table and took stock. I'd left Melissa, listed the house, cut off money, reported her to HR, put Reed on notice. Things that had once felt unthinkable now seemed like steps in a single straight path. Friday morning, HR moved forward. I knew because Melissa left a voicemail full of panic. "They're going to fire me. You're ruining my life." I didn't respond. I reread her company's ethics policy instead. Falsified expenses, undisclosed relationship, misuse of company resources. She had tripped every wire on her own. Friday afternoon, I reviewed port schedules. Pacific Horizon would leave Saturday. Reed had 48 hours left on shore, time he'd spend trying to reassure Melissa while his confidence continued to crack. Men like him always loved the game, right up until losing became a possibility. Saturday morning, I walked the beach at sunrise. Calm water, empty sky. I thought of Hailey, then remembered her expression that Tuesday morning. Blank, distant, uninterested in defending me. Melissa had shaped her into that, not me. The house sold that afternoon, full price, cash. I accepted immediately. Just like that, the last tie to my old life was gone. Sunday, I deep cleaned the apartment until it looked anonymous. Hotel sterile. Everything that carried their fingerprints went into the trash. Photos, cards, even the mug Hailey made me years ago. It needed to be done. That afternoon, I lifted weights at the gym, not for appearance, but for the feeling of strength. I remembered how Melissa used to make comments about what I ate. How much, how often. Control disguised as concern. Sunday night, I cooked a real meal. Steak, vegetables, simple, clean. I ate slowly, tasting each bite. For the first time in years, I wasn't eating around someone else's judgment. It was a small freedom. But it felt like reclaiming my entire life. Monday morning, Melissa showed up at the port. Security called me before she reached the building. I met her in the parking lot. She looked awful. Hair unwashed, dark circles under her eyes. The polished image she'd maintained for years completely gone. "You can't sell the house," she said, not yelling, pleading. "Already did." "Where are we supposed to go?" "I don't know, but you have 3 weeks to figure it out." "Aaron, I'm begging you. I'll do anything." "There's nothing you can do. This is done." "What about Hailey? You're just going to abandon her? You spent 12 years making sure she didn't see me as her father. Congratulations. You succeeded." Melissa grabbed my arm. "Please. I'll leave Reed. I'll tell everyone it was my fault. Just stop this." I pulled my arm free. "You don't get it. I don't want apologies. I don't want you to fix things. I want you to understand what it feels like to have everything taken away by someone you trusted. You're being cruel." "I'm being fair." She stared at me, tears streaming down her face, waiting for me to crack, to show mercy. I didn't. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I never thought you had this in you." Neither did I. Turns out 12 years of being treated like nothing builds something inside a person, something cold. "You used to be kind." I used to be stupid. I confused kindness with weakness, with letting people use me. So now you're what? Strong? Tough? Is that what this is? No. Now I'm just honest. About what you are. About what I deserve. About what happens when someone finally stops pretending everything's okay. She wiped her eyes, smearing mascara across her cheeks. Hailey asks about you every day. What does she ask? If you're coming back, if you still love her, if this is her fault. Something twisted in my chest, small, sharp. I pushed it down. Tell her the truth, that her mother spent 12 years making sure I knew I wasn't her father, that she agreed with you, that I'm just following instructions. She's 13 years old, Aaron. She doesn't understand. Then help her understand. You're good at shaping her view of me. Shape this too. Melissa's face crumpled. I was wrong. I see that now. I was wrong about everything. Seeing it doesn't fix it. I know, but please, if not for me, then for Hailey. Don't do this to her. I'm not doing anything to her. You did it. 12 years ago when you decided I was disposable. 5 years ago when you reconnected with Reed. Last year when you filed financial separation papers without telling me. Last month when you said I'd never be her father. I stepped closer, lowered my voice. You built this, Melissa. Every piece. I'm just making sure you see the completed project. She tried to speak, couldn't. Just stood there crying. Goodbye, Melissa. I walked back to the building, didn't look back. Security escorted her off the property. I went to my office, closed the door, sat at my desk. My hands were shaking again, heart pounding. That conversation about Hailey had hurt more than I wanted to admit, but I couldn't let it change anything, couldn't let guilt pull me back into their orbit. Hailey had chosen. Maybe she didn't understand the full weight of that choice. Maybe Melissa had manipulated her into it. But the choice was still made, and I had to live with that. We all did. The following week, Melissa's HR investigation concluded. Termination for falsified expense reports and undisclosed personal relationships affecting company resources. Not a scandal, not publicized, just a quiet exit with no severance. Her social media went silent. No posts, no stories, no carefully filtered photos of her perfect life. I checked once, just to confirm. Her accounts were still active but empty. The influencer persona she'd built vanished overnight. Good. Reed's ship, Pacific Horizon, left port Tuesday morning. I watched from the office window as it pulled away from the dock. Reed was aboard, back to his route. 6 weeks before he'd return. I wondered if Melissa knew. If he'd told her, or if he'd just disappeared without explanation. Didn't matter either way. The house closing moved forward, paperwork signed, inspections passed. The buyers were a young couple with a baby. They walked through the house with wide eyes, talking about paint colors and furniture arrangements. They didn't know what had happened there, the 12 years of slow erosion, the quiet betrayal. They just saw a house. Maybe that's all it ever was. Tuesday evening, I stayed late at work, organized files, reviewed quarterly reports, kept my mind occupied. Jim stopped by around 7. You're still here? Just finishing up. You know you don't have to work this hard, right? You already proved yourself. I'm not proving anything, just staying busy. He leaned against the door frame. Can I ask you something? Sure. You going through a separation? Divorce. Soon. That explains a lot. The intensity, the long hours, the focus. I looked at him. You've been through one? 2, actually. First one nearly ended me. Second one I saw coming, made it easier. Which is this. For you? Hard to say. You seem angry but controlled, like you're channeling it into something productive. That's one way to put it. He nodded. Well, whatever you're doing, it's working professionally. Just make sure you're okay personally. I'm fine. If you say so. But if you need to talk, I'm around. After he left, I sat in my office, looked out at the harbor. Ships docked and quiet. water black under moonlight. I thought about what he'd said. Was I channeling anger? Or was I just finally standing up for myself? Maybe both. Wednesday, Hailey called again, third time since I'd left. Mom lost her job. I know. Because of you. Because of her choices. You reported her to HR. I asked a question. They investigated. That's how these things work. You're destroying her life. She destroyed mine first. I'm just making sure she understands what that feels like. What about me? I didn't do anything. You told me I wasn't your father. You agreed with her. You chose sides. I was upset. So was I. For 12 years. Silence. I could hear her breathing, trying to find words. Do you even care what happens to us? She asked finally. I cared for 12 years. Nobody cared back. Now I'm done caring. You're a terrible person. Maybe, but I'm an honest one. She hung up. I set the phone down and realized I felt nothing. No guilt, no regret, no wish to fix things. Just emptiness where the guilt used to be. Progress. Thursday morning, I got an email from the realtor. The house inspection had revealed some minor issues. Nothing major. The buyer still wanted to proceed. Closing date confirmed. 3 weeks from today. I forwarded the email to Melissa's lawyer. Let them deal with it. Thursday afternoon, I took a long lunch. Drove to a park near the port. Sat on a bench watching people. A father and daughter walked past. She was maybe 10 years old. Holding his hand. Laughing at something he said. I watched them until they disappeared around a corner. Felt a pang. Small, but sharp. That could have been me and Hailey. Should have been. But Melissa made sure it never would be. I stood up. Walked back to my truck. Drove back to work. No point dwelling on what could have been. Only what was, and what was going to be. Thursday evening, I went to the gym. Pushed myself harder than before. Ran until my lungs burned. Lifted until my arms shook. The physical exhaustion helped, quieted the thoughts, grounded me in my body instead of my head. I showered, went home, made dinner, sat at my table eating, thinking about the next phase. Pacific Horizon would return in 5 weeks. Reed would have shore leave again. He'd try to see Melissa, and I'd be ready. Friday morning, I reviewed port security protocols again, studied the regulations, made notes. Everything had to be perfect. No room for error. 1 violation might be explained away. 2 would raise questions. 3 would trigger action. I needed 3. Friday afternoon, the port manager stopped by my desk. Blake, good work on the quarterly report. Best analysis we've had in years. Thank you, sir. You're really stepping up lately. I'm impressed. Just doing my job. It's more than that. Whatever changed in your personal life, it's making you better professionally. I nodded. Sometimes you have to remove what's holding you back. He smiled. That's one way to put it. Keep it up. After he left, I leaned back in my chair, looked around my workspace, everything organized, everything in its place, no chaos, no drama. This was what my life should have been all along. Friday evening, I drove home, stopped at a grocery store, bought real food, fresh vegetables, good meat, wine, cooked myself a proper meal, set the table, ate slowly, no television, no phone, just me and my thoughts. And for the first time in weeks, my thoughts were quiet, not happy, not sad, just quiet. Saturday morning, I woke up early, went for a run, 5 miles along the waterfront. The air was cool, the sun was just rising, the world felt new. I thought about Melissa, about Reed, about Hailey, about how much energy I'd spent trying to be enough for people who didn't value me. That energy was mine now, to spend how I wanted, on myself, on my career, on building something that actually mattered. Saturday afternoon, I cleaned my apartment again, not because it was dirty, just because I could. Organized my closet, threw away old clothes, made space for new things. Symbolic, maybe, but it felt good. Saturday evening, I sat on my balcony, watched the sunset, drank wine. The sky turned orange and pink and purple. The city lights flickered on one by one. Somewhere Melissa was dealing with unemployment, with losing the house, with Reed being gone. Somewhere Hailey was learning that choices have consequences. And I was here, free, whole, moving forward. Not a victim, not a placeholder. Just Aaron. Sunday morning I woke up without an alarm, let myself sleep in, made coffee, sat in bed reading. When was the last time I'd done this? Just relaxed. No agenda, no obligations. Years, maybe a decade. Melissa always had plans. Things we needed to do. Places we needed to go. People we needed to see. Now I had nothing but time. Sunday afternoon I drove to the beach, found a quiet spot, walked along the shore. The water was calm, smooth, peaceful. I found a piece of driftwood, sat on it, watched waves roll in, thought about nothing, just existed. It was perfect. Sunday evening I went back to my apartment, made dinner, watched a movie, went to bed early, slept better than I had in years. Monday morning I arrived at work refreshed, energized, ready. Jim noticed. "You look good, man, like you finally got some sleep." "I did. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." "I plan to." Monday afternoon I got a notification. Pacific Horizon had filed its route report, would dock in 4 weeks, Reed would return, and I'd be ready for Phase 2. 3 weeks later, the house sold. I signed papers in a conference room that smelled like stale coffee and air freshener. Melissa didn't show. Her lawyer handled everything remotely. The money hit my account Thursday morning, my half of the sale, enough to start over, enough to walk away clean. But I wasn't ready to walk away yet. I checked the port database. Pacific Horizon was scheduled to return in 12 days. Reed would have shore leave, 48 hours. I started planning. The port had safety protocols, strict ones. Unauthorized personnel weren't allowed on vessels without proper clearance. Crew members could get written up for violations. Multiple violations meant reassignment. I'd filed hundreds of safety reports in my 15 years at the port. Nobody questioned them. They trusted me. Time to use that trust. Thursday afternoon I reviewed the regulations again, made notes, confirmed procedures. Everything had to be perfect. One mistake and Reed would know I was targeting him, would file a complaint, would make my life difficult. But if I did this right, it would look like routine enforcement. Just bad luck on his part. Thursday evening, I went to a restaurant, sat at the bar, ordered steak and whiskey. The bartender was friendly. We talked about sports, weather, nothing deep. It felt good. Normal conversation with someone who didn't know my history, didn't have opinions about my choices. Just two people talking. When I left, he said, "Have a good night, man." "You too." I drove home feeling lighter, like maybe I was becoming a person again, not just a ball of anger and pain, a person. Friday morning I called port security. Casual conversation. Mentioned I'd noticed some crew members bringing civilians aboard during shore leave. Nothing serious, but worth monitoring. Could they run random inspections next time Pacific Horizon docked? They said they would. "Just routine checks," I said. "Nothing targeted. Just making sure everyone's following protocol." "Absolutely. We'll add it to the schedule." After I hung up, I sat back in my chair. Felt that familiar satisfaction. Everything was in place. Friday afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. "This is Linda, Melissa's sister. We need to talk." I didn't respond. 10 minutes later, another text. "Melissa's not doing well. She's staying with me, but I can't support her forever. You need to help." I typed back, "No, I don't. She's the mother of a child you raised for 12 years. A child she made sure knew I wasn't her father. My responsibility ended when that conversation happened. You're being vindictive. I'm being honest. If Melissa needs help, she can get a job, rebuild, move on, like I did. You destroyed her career. She destroyed her career by falsifying expense reports and lying to her company. I just asked a question. They found the evidence. No response after that. I blocked Linda's number. Saturday morning, I woke up feeling restless. Went for a long run, 8 miles. Pushed myself harder than usual. Came home exhausted. Showered. Made breakfast. Sat at my table eating. Thinking about Melissa's sister. About how everyone seemed to think I was responsible for fixing Melissa's problems. Nobody had asked if I was okay when Melissa was tearing me down. Nobody had intervened when she spent 12 years poisoning Hailey against me. But now that I'd fought back, suddenly I was the villain. The double standard was infuriating, but also clarifying. It showed me that nobody was going to defend me. Nobody was going to say I was right. Nobody was going to validate my choices. I had to be okay with that. Had to find validation internally, from knowing I'd done what needed to be done, and I was okay with it. Saturday afternoon, I drove to a hardware store, bought tools, paint, supplies, spent the rest of the day painting my apartment bedroom. New color, fresh start. The physical work felt good, mindless, productive. By evening, the room looked completely different. Clean, new, mine. I stood in the doorway admiring the work, felt pride. This was what rebuilding looked like. Small steps, one room at a time. Saturday evening I ordered takeout, sat on my balcony eating, watching the sunset. The sky turned brilliant orange, the harbor lights came on, ships sat quiet in their docks, everything peaceful. This was what I'd fought for. Not revenge, exactly, but peace. The chance to live without constantly being made to feel small. Worth it. Sunday morning I slept in again, let myself rest, made coffee, sat in bed reading, started a new book. Something about a man rebuilding his life after tragedy. Fitting. Sunday afternoon I went back to the beach, same quiet spot, sat on the same piece of driftwood, watched waves, thought about nothing. A couple walked past holding hands. Young, happy, laughing about something. I didn't feel envious, didn't feel lonely, just felt separate, like I was existing in a different space now, one where I didn't need another person to feel complete. That was growth. Sunday evening I made dinner, sat at my table, ate slowly, realized I was smiling, for no reason, just a small smile. When was the last time that had happened? I couldn't remember. Monday morning I returned to work. The port manager stopped by my desk. "Blake, I'm officially putting you on the fast track for promotion. Assistant manager position opens in 2 months. You're my top choice." "Thank you, sir. You've earned it. Best work I've seen from you in 15 years. After he left, I sat there processing. Promotion, better pay, more responsibility. Everything I'd wanted professionally, but had been too distracted to pursue. Now it was happening. Because I'd removed the distractions. Because I'd chosen myself. Monday afternoon, I reviewed next week's shipping schedule. Pacific Horizon would dock Wednesday. Reed would disembark Thursday morning. Port Security would run their inspection Thursday evening. Perfect timing. Tuesday, I worked straight through lunch. Coordinated container movements, solved shipping conflicts, made decisions without second guessing. Jim stopped by. "You're on fire lately. Just focused. More than that, you're like a different person, confident, decisive." Maybe I am. Well, whatever happened, it's working. After he left, I thought about what he'd said. Was I a different person? No. I was the same person I'd always been, just without someone constantly telling me I wasn't enough. That made all the difference. Tuesday evening, I went to the gym, worked out hard, pushed my limits, came home tired, showered, made dinner, sat at my table planning the next 48 hours. Wednesday, Pacific Horizon docks. Thursday morning, Reed disembarks, probably meets Melissa. Thursday evening, port security inspection. Friday, Reed gets written up. Everything had to go perfectly. No deviation from the plan. I finished my dinner, cleaned up, went to bed early. Tomorrow would be important. Wednesday morning, I arrived at work an hour early, made coffee, reviewed schedules. Pacific Horizon was due to dock at 10. I'd be ready. 10:15, the ship appeared. Massive, cutting through morning fog. Tugboats guided it into position. I watched from my office window, saw crew members preparing lines, saw the gangway extend. Somewhere on that ship, Reed was preparing to disembark, probably excited to see Melissa, probably thinking he'd gotten away with everything. He hadn't. Wednesday afternoon, I filed routine paperwork, coordinated cargo unloading. Everything normal, but I kept an eye on the crew roster, made note of when Reed checked out for shore leave. 3 p.m. He'd have until Friday morning. 48 hours of freedom, 48 hours to make a mistake. Wednesday evening, I stayed late. Not for work, just to watch. Saw Reed leave the ship, saw him walk to the parking lot, saw Melissa's car pull up. They drove away together. Good. Thursday morning, I came in early again, called port security. Just checking on that random inspection schedule. Still on for tonight. Pacific Horizon. Standard safety check. Perfect, thanks. Thursday dragged. Every hour felt like 3. I couldn't focus on work, just kept checking the clock. 6 p.m. couldn't come fast enough. Jim noticed. You okay? You seem distracted. Just tired. You sure? Because you've been watching the clock all day. I'm fine, just waiting for the day to end. He nodded, but didn't look convinced. Thursday evening finally arrived. Port security began their inspection at 6:30. I watched from my office window, saw them board the ship, saw them checking compartments, checking logs, checking everything. 7:15, they found her, Melissa, in the crew quarters, unauthorized civilian in a restricted area. Reed tried to explain, said she was just visiting, said he didn't know she couldn't be there. Security didn't care, rules were rules. They documented everything, took statements, filed the report. Reed got written up, official violation, first strike. I leaned back in my chair, smiled. 1 down, 2 to go. The next morning I filed another safety report. This one about improper cargo handling procedures near Reed's station. Routine observation, the kind I filed weekly. But this one would trigger another inspection, another mark on Reed's record. 1 more strike, and he'd be gone. Friday morning, I watched the report get processed, watched it get assigned to a safety inspector, watched the inspection get scheduled. Tuesday, 3 days from now. Perfect. Friday afternoon, Reed found me in the parking lot, walked up fast, fists clenched. You set me up. I made a phone call. Port security did their job. You got me written up. You violated safety protocol. That's on you. He shoved me. I sidestepped. He stumbled, tried again. I caught his arm, twisted, used his momentum to drive him shoulder first into the side of a cargo container. He hit steel hard, dropped to one knee, gasped for air. Stay down, I said. He looked up at me, face red, breathing hard, not angry anymore, scared. This isn't over, he said. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. I walked away. Behind me, I heard him cursing, struggling to stand. Didn't matter. He'd already lost. Friday evening, Melissa called again. Different number. I answered because I wanted to hear her panic. Reed got in trouble because of you. Reed got in trouble because he broke rules. You're trying to get him fired. I'm doing my job. If that causes problems for Reed, that's his issue. Why can't you just leave us alone? You didn't leave me alone for 12 years. You spent every day making sure I knew I didn't matter. Now I'm returning the favor. This has to stop. It stops when I say it stops. She started sobbing. I have nothing left. No job, no house. Reed's pulling away. Hailey won't talk to me. What more do you want? I want you to understand what you did. I understand. I was wrong. No. You understand you got caught. There's a difference. I hung up, stood in my apartment, felt my heart racing, not from fear, from satisfaction. This was working. Everything was falling into place. Saturday morning, I woke up feeling energized, Went for a long run, 10 miles, pushed myself harder than ever, came home exhausted, showered, made breakfast, sat at my table planning the next phase. The second inspection would happen Tuesday. If Reed had made any mistakes, they'd find them, document them, add them to his file. 2 strikes. Then I'd need one more. Just one more violation and he'd be reassigned. Away from here, away from Melissa, away from the fantasy they'd built. Saturday afternoon I went to the gym, worked out until my muscles burned, felt strong, powerful, in control. This was what winning felt like. Saturday evening I cooked dinner. Real food, good food. Sat at my table eating slowly. Thought about Melissa, about how she must be panicking, about how Reed must be second-guessing everything, about how they were both learning that actions have consequences. Felt nothing but satisfaction. Sunday morning I slept in, woke up naturally, made coffee, sat on my balcony watching the harbor, ships coming and going, cargo moving, life continuing, everything in motion, everything changing, including me. Sunday afternoon I cleaned my apartment, organized my closet, threw away more old things, made space for the future. Sunday evening I sat in my living room, looked around at my space, my life, my choices, everything exactly how I wanted it. No compromises, no negotiations, no considering what someone else might want. Just me. Perfect. Monday morning I returned to work, refreshed, focused, ready. The safety inspection was scheduled for tomorrow. Everything was in place. Jim stopped by. "You seem good today." "I am. Whatever you've been doing, keep doing it." "I will." Monday afternoon, the harbor master called me into his office. "Blake, great work on the container expansion project. You're ahead of schedule." "Thank you, sir." "Keep it up and that assistant manager position is yours." I nodded. "I appreciate that." After I left his office, I stood in the hallway, looked out at the harbor, felt pride. This was my future, everything I'd worked for, everything I deserved, and nobody could take it from me. Monday evening I went home, made dinner, sat at my table, thought about tomorrow, about the inspection, about what would happen if they found something. They would. I was certain of it. Reed was getting careless, making mistakes. The pressure was getting to him, and careless people made violations. Tuesday morning arrived. I went to work early, made coffee, waited. The safety inspection began at 9 a.m. I watched from my office, saw the inspector board Pacific Horizon, saw him checking equipment, procedures, documentation. 10:30, he came back, filed his report. Improper equipment storage near Reed Station. Safety violation. Minor, but documented. Reed got called in, got another write-up. 2 strikes. I leaned back in my chair, watched Reed leave the supervisor's office. His face was pale, hands shaking. He knew what this meant. One more violation and he was done. Tuesday afternoon he tried to find me. I avoided him, stayed in my office, kept my door closed. Didn't need another confrontation. Not yet. Tuesday evening Melissa called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Aaron, please. Reed's getting in trouble at work. He thinks you're doing it on purpose. He's talking about leaving, about taking a different route. Please, just stop. We get it. We're sorry. Just please stop." I deleted the voicemail. Wednesday morning I came to work early again. Reviewed the crew schedule. Pacific Horizon was leaving Thursday morning. Headed back to Asia. Would be gone 6 weeks. Reed would be aboard. But before he left, I needed one more violation, one more strike. Wednesday afternoon I walked the pier, observed operations, looked for anything out of place. Found it at 3 p.m., Reed talking on his personal phone, while operating equipment. Clear violation of safety protocols. I documented it, filed the report, sent it to the safety supervisor. Wednesday evening the supervisor called Reed in. 3rd violation. Reed tried to argue, said it was just a quick call, said he didn't know it was against policy, didn't matter. Rules were rules. The supervisor made the call, reassignment, different vessel, different route. Arctic cargo operations, 6 months minimum. Reed tried to appeal. Company denied it. Thursday morning, Pacific Horizon departed. Reed wasn't aboard. He'd been reassigned effective immediately. Different ship, different dock, leaving Friday morning for Alaska. I watched from my office window, saw him loading his gear onto a different vessel, saw him looking back at the port, looking for me. I stayed out of sight. Friday morning, the new ship departed. Reed was aboard, headed north, gone for 6 months minimum, maybe longer. Melissa would be alone now, no job, no house, no Reed, just her and Hailey and the consequences of her choices. Friday afternoon, I sat in my office, looked out at the harbor, felt something close to completion, not happiness, not joy, just the satisfaction of a job well done. I'd taken everything from her, just like she'd taken everything from me. And it felt right. 3 weeks passed. I worked. I went to the gym. I lived my life. No calls from Melissa. No texts from Hailey. No contact with my old life. Just forward momentum. The port manager formally announced my promotion. Assistant manager effective next month. Better pay, more responsibility, an office with my name on the door. Jim took me out for drinks to celebrate. "You really turned things around," he said. "Just got my priorities straight. Your ex must be kicking herself." "Probably. You talked to her at all?" "No." "Good. That's the right move. Clean break." I raised my glass. Clean break. We drank. Wednesday, Pacific Horizon docked. Reed disembarked Thursday morning. I tracked his movements through security cameras. He didn't go to Melissa's sister's house, didn't meet her anywhere I could see. Interesting. Maybe he'd finally realized she wasn't worth the trouble. Friday afternoon, I made one final safety report. This one about unauthorized use of ship communications for personal matters during operational hours. Standard violation. Easy to verify. Port security investigated. Found evidence. Third strike. Reed was reassigned. Different vessel. Arctic cargo route. 6 months minimum before returning to West Coast operations. The company notified him Monday morning. He tried to appeal. They denied it. Tuesday afternoon, he showed up at the port, demanded to see me. Security called. I went down to the parking lot. He looked broken, not angry, just defeated. "You did this." "I did my job. You violated protocols, multiple times. I'm being sent to Alaska, 6 months, maybe longer." "That's unfortunate. Melissa's falling apart. She needs me." "Then you shouldn't have been so careless." He stepped closer. "You're destroying people's lives." "I'm destroying the life you tried to build on top of mine. There's a difference." "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. I already took it." He stared at me, trying to find words. Couldn't. "You're a vindictive person," he said finally. "I'm a man who stopped letting people walk on him. If that makes me vindictive, so be it." He turned and walked away. Got in his truck, drove off. I watched him go. Felt nothing. That evening, Melissa showed up at my apartment. Somehow found my address. Pounded on the door until I opened it. She looked destroyed. Hair tangled. Eyes red. Shaking. "Reed's leaving. Because of you. Because of his choices." "You ruined everything." "You ruined everything. I just stopped pretending it was fixable." She pushed past me into the apartment. Looked around wildly. "How can you live like this? Alone. Nothing on the walls. No pictures. No life. This is life without you. You're miserable. I'm free. You're lying to yourself." I spent 12 years lying to myself. Pretending I was part of a family. Pretending I mattered. I'm done lying. She grabbed my shirt. "Please. I'll do anything. I'll tell Hailey you're her father. I'll fix everything. Just stop this." I pulled her hands away. "You can't fix this. It's already broken. It was always broken. We can start over." "No." "Aaron, please. Get out." She didn't move, just stood there crying, waiting for me to crack. I didn't. "Get out, Melissa." She left, I closed the door, locked it, stood in the silence of my apartment, not sad, not guilty, just done. Wednesday, Reed left for Alaska. I didn't watch his departure. Didn't need to. Thursday, Melissa called one last time. I answered. He's gone. I know. I have nothing. You have Hailey. She blames me for everything. She should. What am I supposed to do now? Figure it out. Like I had to. Aaron, please. I hung up. Blocked the number. Friday, I went to work. Did my job. Came home. Cooked dinner. Watched a movie. Went to bed. Simple, clean, mine. Saturday, I woke up and realized I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying weight for years and finally put it down. No more Melissa. No more Reed. No more drama. Just my life. On my terms. I made coffee, sat on my balcony, watched the sunrise, and for the first time in 12 years, I felt completely, totally free. Spring arrived. The port got busier, more ships, more cargo, more work. I settled into my new role as assistant manager, made decisions, solved problems, built respect. People listened when I talked, took my recommendations seriously, treated me like someone who mattered, because I did. Jim congratulated me again. You're crushing it, man. Thanks. Seriously, best decision the company ever made. I nodded. Felt that quiet satisfaction again. One afternoon in April, the harbor master called me into his office. Blake, I'm putting you in charge of the new container expansion project. Big responsibility. Think you can handle it? Yes, sir. Good. Because I'm recommending you for full port operations manager next year when I retire. I stared at him. Sir? You've earned it. You're the best logistics person we've had in 20 years. Once you stopped being distracted by personal stuff, you became unstoppable. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just keep doing what you're doing. I left his office feeling something close to pride. Not arrogance. Just the satisfaction of a man who'd rebuilt his life from nothing. That evening I went to the gym. Pushed myself harder than ever. Ran 6 miles. Lifted until my muscles burned. Came home exhausted. Showered. Made dinner. Sat at my table eating slowly. Tasting everything. This was what success felt like. And it was mine. Friday I got an email notification. Pacific Horizon had permanently reassigned Reed Holloway to Arctic operations. He wouldn't be returning to West Coast routes, ever. I deleted the email. Didn't matter anymore. Saturday I drove to the beach, walked along the shore, felt the wind on my face. A woman jogged past, smiled at me, kept running. I smiled back, not because I was interested, just because I could. No guilt. No obligation, no wondering if Melissa would get angry, just a moment of human connection, simple, clean. Sunday, I cleaned my apartment, organized my closet, threw away old clothes I'd been keeping for no reason, made space for new things. Monday, I went back to work with renewed energy. The container expansion project was massive, months of planning, coordination, problem solving. I threw myself into it. Tuesday evening, Jim stopped by my office. You working late again? Project deadline. You know you don't have to prove anything anymore, right? I looked at him. I'm not proving anything. I'm just doing what I'm good at. He smiled. Fair enough. Just don't burn yourself out. I won't. After he left, I stayed another hour, finished the projections, sent them to the harbor master, walked out into the cool night air, breathed deep. This was my life now. Work I was good at, people who respected me, a future I was building on my own terms, and it was enough. Wednesday, I got a text from an unknown number. This is Hailey. Mom told me to stop contacting you, but I wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I stared at the message for a long time. Felt nothing. No anger, no forgiveness, just emptiness. I deleted the text, blocked the number. Some bridges weren't worth rebuilding. Thursday, I went to a hardware store, bought paint, brushes, supplies, spent the weekend painting my apartment. New colors, fresh start, everything exactly how I wanted it. Saturday evening, I stood in my living room admiring the work. Clean walls, organized space, no clutter, a place that was completely, totally mine. I opened a beer, sat on my couch, looked around. This was home. Not the house I'd shared with Melissa, not the family I'd tried to build. Just this, my apartment, my space, my life. And it was perfect. Sunday, I went to the beach one more time, found the same quiet spot, sat watching waves. No families walked past this time, just seagulls and sand and endless water. I closed my eyes, listened to the ocean, felt peace, complete, total, unshakable peace. Monday, I returned to work ready for whatever came next. The harbor master stopped me in the hall. "Blake, great work on those projections. You're ahead of schedule." "Thank you, sir." "Keep it up and that manager position is yours." I nodded. "I will." He walked away. I stood in the hallway, looked out the window at the harbor, ships docked and waiting, cranes ready to unload cargo, everything in its place, everything running smooth, just like my life. Finally. Summer came fast. The port buzzed with activity, ships from every corner of the world, cargo flowing through like a river. I coordinated it all from my office, made decisions, solved problems, built something that mattered. One afternoon in June, Melissa appeared at the port entrance. Security called before she reached the building. I walked down to meet her in the parking lot one final time. She looked different, thinner, hair cut short, wearing clothes I didn't recognize. Her face had hard edges now, lines around her eyes. "Aaron." "Melissa, I needed to see you." "Why?" "To tell you I'm leaving, moving to another state. Linda can't keep supporting us and Reed's not coming back." "Okay." "That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say?" She stepped closer. Rain starting to fall around us. "I want you to admit you destroyed my life on purpose, that you planned every step, that you're not the victim you pretend to be." I looked at her, really looked at her, saw the woman who'd spent 12 years making me feel small, making me question my worth, making me believe I was lucky she'd chosen me. "You're absolutely right," I said. She blinked. "What?" "I destroyed your life on purpose. I planned every step. I used my access, my knowledge, my position. I made sure you lost everything." "You admit it?" "I don't just admit it. I'm proud of it." Her face twisted. "How can you say that?" "Because you spent 12 years taking from me. My time, my energy, my sense of self. You poisoned Hailey against me. You used me as a placeholder while you waited for Reed. You made me feel worthless." "I made mistakes." "No. You made choices, and I made mine. I chose to stop being your victim. I chose to take back every single thing you stole from me." "What about Hailey? What about her? You raised her to think I didn't matter. Now she knows you were right. I don't matter. Not to her, not to you. And that's exactly what you wanted." Thunder rumbled. Rain fell harder. Melissa's voice cracked. "I hate you. You always did. You just needed me too much to admit it." She stared at me, mascara running, hair soaking wet, looking like everything she'd built had collapsed, because it had. "You're a monster," she whispered. "No, I'm just the man you created when you decided I was disposable." She turned to leave. Stopped, looked back. "I hope you're happy." "I'm not miserable." "That's close enough." She walked away toward the parking lot exit, got into an old car I didn't recognize, drove off. I stood in the rain watching her taillights disappear. Felt nothing. No guilt, no regret, no second thoughts. Just the rain on my face and the weight of finality. It was done. I turned and walked back toward the port building. Reed appeared from behind a cargo container, soaking wet, face red with rage. He must have come back early. Must have been waiting. "You think you won?" he shouted. I stopped, looked at him. "You destroyed everything. Melissa's gone. My career's ruined. All because you couldn't handle losing. I didn't lose anything. I removed myself from a situation where I was being used. He lunged at me. I sidestepped. He stumbled. Came at me again. This time I didn't hold back. I stepped into his swing, caught his wrist, twisted hard, and drove my elbow into his ribs. He gasped. I swept his legs. He went down hard on the wet pavement. He tried to get up. I put my boot on his chest. Stay down. He looked up at me, rain pouring onto his face, breathing hard, finally broken. You wanted my life, I said quietly. You wanted my wife, my home, my family. You thought you could just take it because I wouldn't fight back. I leaned down closer. But here's what you didn't understand. It was never worth taking. Melissa was never worth having. And I was never someone you could just push aside. I lifted my boot. Reed rolled onto his side, coughing, gasping. I walked away. Behind me, I heard him struggling to stand, heard him curse, heard him collapse again. I didn't look back. I walked through the rain to my truck, got in, started the engine, sat there for a moment, watching rain stream down the windshield. Melissa was gone. Reed was broken. Hailey had made her choice, and I was here, free, whole, victorious. I put the truck in gear and drove away from the port, drove toward my apartment, my life, my future. Not a victim, not a placeholder, not a convenience, just Aaron Blake, the man who'd taken everything back.